to show you what they don't want you to see.
It's still a disaster. What's the latest?
They call these street releases. You've got hundreds of people being dropped off. It's getting worse.
We're the nation's fastest growing news program for a reason.
Real journalism.
They're all marching down to the White House.
Sounds to me, Ben, like they won't be happy until Israel doesn't exist.
Real American news.
America is under chemical warfare attack. Fentanyl is the weapon.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
I appreciate you guys very, very much.
This is America's Voice Live with Steve Gruber.
Welcome to America's Voice Live. I'm Steve Gruber. Thank you for being here. It's Tuesday, the 25th of February. Time to get to the top stories. Woke Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers is stirring up controversy targeting women. Congressman Tom Tiffany joins me in just a few minutes to discuss that and what's going on. Also, California is adding to its already strict gun control in the state by potentially getting rid of critical self-defense laws. Of course they are. And then later, Joy Reid's show, The Reid Out, was canceled by MSNBC, but Joy Reid had one last show to attack MAGA and Donald Trump. Oh, yeah. We'll be getting into that pretty well as well. We start here, though. Kash Patel is the new FBI director under the Trump administration, and I couldn't be more excited. Kash has joined me many times on this program and others here on Real America's Voice, and he's long called for transparency and accountability from our institutions, especially the FBI. Here was his first speech after being sworn in. Listen to this.
I promise you the following. There will be accountability within the FBI and outside of the FBI, and we will do it through rigorous constitutional oversight starting this weekend. And for those of you who think that there's going to be a two-tier system of justice, not with Attorney General Bondi. There's a singular system of justice for all Americans, and there will be accountability. And the reason that this mission is so important is simply the following. 100,000 people last year raped. 100,000 people died of CCP fentanyl overdose and heroin. 17,000 homicides. Violent crime is out of control. We cannot have a United States of America where that is acceptable, where someone dies every 30 minutes, where someone ODs every 7, where someone's raped every 6. That cannot be allowed to continue, and it will not be allowed to continue. Our national security mission is equally as important. Anyone that wishes to do harm to our way of life and our citizens here or abroad will face the full wrath of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And if you seek to hide in any corner of this country or any corner of this planet, we will put on the world's largest manhunt, and we will find you, and we will decide your end state, not you. We will uphold the Constitution. We will uphold ourselves to the Constitution.
What a glorious comment. We will hold ourselves to the Constitution. Sounds good to me. How did Patel get here? Have you ever asked yourself? Well, if you remember, Patel was vital in exposing Russiagate. He was the first to uncover the fact that Hillary Clinton and the DNC were behind the fake dossier that kicked off impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump, and he stuck to his guns. While the mainstream media and the establishment called him a conspiracy theorist and a whack job. Eventually, his Russiagate expose was vindicated by the Mueller report. But that hasn't stopped his critics from attacking him, especially after Donald Trump tapped Patel for the FBI director position. Here's Adam Schiff. Think about this. After the confirmation hearings on Kash Patel, listen.
This is someone we cannot trust. This is someone who lacks the character to do this job, someone who lacks the integrity to do this job. We know that. Our Republican colleagues know that. The only qualification Kash Patel has to be FBI director is that when everyone else in the first Trump administration said, no, I won't do that, that crosses moral, ethical, and legal lines, Kash Patel said, sign me up. In the first Trump administration, as we are seeing in the second, you rise to the level of your sycophancy, and no one is a bigger or more dangerous sycophant than Kash Patel.
Well, there is a man that looks terrified by the prospect of Kash Patel as the head of the FBI. I wonder why. Adam Schiff was at the center of the Russiagate scandal. He and his team coached the so-called whistleblower that submitted unverified testimony against the president and then didn't admit they did it until the New York Times outed him. And here's what Kash had to say about Adam Schiff in the past. Listen to this.
Adam Schiff is the worst criminal in Congress in the last 250 years. Adam Schiff went to the podium day after day after day saying, I know nothing about this. We're not going to discuss it. We're going to protect it. And then Adam Schiff, led the prosecution of the impeachment trial in the Senate of President Donald Trump. Talk about someone who was conflicted out of the game because he was part of the hoax that brought Charmella in, manufactured that false accusation, and then peddled it out to the world. And he continued, not surprising, he's lied about almost everything in his life. But now he lied just to set up a presidential impeachment.
Yeah, no wonder Adam Schiff is squirming in his new Senate seat, trying to convince the public that Patel is a dangerous pick. And guess what? Patel is a dangerous pick, no question about it, for people like Adam Schiff, because they have a lot to hide. Now, the media is foaming at the mouth with claims that the FBI is going to just become the primary tool for Donald Trump's vengeance tour. Here's NBC's Kristen Welker trying to corner Trump into admitting as much, while he stays calm, cool, and collected, as always. Here it is.
Is it your expectation, though, that Kash Patel will pursue investigations against your political enemies?
No, I don't think so.
Do you want to see that happen?
If they were crooked, if they did something wrong, if they have broken the law, probably they went after me. They went after me and I did nothing wrong.
Well,
there you have it. Trump staying level-headed, and there should be nothing controversial about the idea that if Trump's political opponents are breaking the law and abusing their positions in government, they should be held accountable, right? That's what you would expect, accountability. Maybe Donald Trump is above going on a vengeful rampage, but I'm not. Kash Patel's book, Government Gangsters, has a list of 60 deep state operatives embedded in our government today. They need to be weeded out and held accountable, in my estimation. Now, I don't know about you, but I want to see it happen. Where is that money actually going? Because you might remember this from a couple of years ago when a Haitian reporter begged Donald Trump to look into that very question. Where'd the money go? He said Haiti didn't get all that money. In fact, almost none of it that they were promised by Bill and Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. Listen to this.
In 2010, the earthquake of Haiti, not only American taxpayers, but the whole world has given billions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation for the Haitians. Not even 2% of that money went back to Haiti. So, Mr. Trump, we are asking you, begging you, the Haitian community will side with you if one day you ask Hillary Clinton publicly to disclose the audit of all the money they have stolen from Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake.
Where is that money that was going to save all those people in Haiti? Seems to be missing. At least that gentleman thinks so. You see, Hillary has a lot she needs to answer for, and I'm sure the FBI could uncover a lot of dirt if they took the time to actually look. How about Hunter Biden? That's the obvious choice. Senator Kennedy asked Kash about that during the confirmation hearings. Do you remember this?
Mr. Hunter Biden cheated on his income taxes. Didn't pay $1.4 million in income taxes over 4 years. And he filed fraudulent returns. He tried to deduct his hookers as a business expense, for God's sakes. And they hit him with 2 misdemeanors before there was a public outcry. Don't you think the American people are entitled to know the details of that?
The American people are entitled to a singular form of justice and the details to every public corruption investigation.
So wait a second. You mean hookers are not a legitimate business expense? Jeez, Hunter, I don't think anybody knew that, buddy. It should be noted that President Biden pardoned Hunter Biden despite saying he wasn't going to. It's about the same time that Trump said, hey, Kash Patel is going to be my pick for the director of the FBI. But let's not forget Republicans, even those who schemed and conspired against Donald Trump and the American people over the last several years. They, too, could face some problems here. Take Liz Cheney, for example. Please take her. Voters kicked her out of Wyoming for her treacherous actions on the 6th of January in that committee, the January 6th committee. But let's not let the accountability stop there. Cheney knowingly communicated with a key January 6th witness. You remember Cassidy Hutchinson. She's the one that claimed that Donald Trump jumped through the window to tackle the driver of the beast, the limo that he rides in, which is not actually possible. But she talked to Cassidy Hutchinson without her attorney's knowledge, violating ethical standards and standards in general. That's called witness tampering, by the way. It's not legal, my friends. But Andrew Cuomo, well, he thinks we need to just let it go. Another mainstream media hack. Listen to this.
I just think you let it go. You won.
What about
and start doing what matters to everybody else.
No, they're not gonna let it go.
So we'll see if they can do it.
I wouldn't let it go.
I know.
Either.
I believe that.
I wouldn't let it go.
I think
because
I think it's a weakness.
You can't have members of Congress at a high profile.
Just let that go. You don't let it go when you manipulate a key witness in the impeachment of the president of these United States. That's not some small matter, Andrew. But for a guy who would lie about just about anything for his family, The same mainstream media that has hyper-focused on January the 6th is telling Donald Trump to just let it go when it comes to investigating elected officials who have broken their oath to the Constitution and actually broken the law. Are you kidding me? No one deserves justice more than the victims of the likes of Jeffrey Epstein and P. Diddy, of course. We still don't know all the key players involved in the sex trafficking rings that these men facilitated. There's a reason we don't know, probably. There are powerful men and women trying to stop that information from reaching the light of day. Senator Marsha Blackburn says she has been stonewalled by the FBI for a very long time, trying to get to these facts that, by the way, I want to know, too. Here's what she said.
I want to talk to you about the Epstein case. I have worked on this for years, trying to get those records of who flew on Epstein's plane and who helped him build this international human trafficking, sex trafficking ring. Now, earlier, I urged then Chairman Durbin to subpoena those records. And I ended up being blocked by Senator Durbin and Christopher Wray. They stonewalled on this. And I know that breaking up these trafficking rings is important to President Trump. So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past and how we...
He could not be more right. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and yet it goes on every day. But maybe now with Kash Patel at the helm, we can make that a reality, clean up this mess. We do want the truth. We want the names of the men and women who have benefited from corruption in this government for years, decades. My gut tells me there might be some repeat names that appear on the Epstein and P. Diddy lists. Double offenders. They deserve time behind bars, is my guess. I hope Kash Patel will be the one to make it happen. I feel even more hopeful after Dan Bongino has been tapped as Kash's number 2 as the FBI's deputy director. Dan, a former Secret Service agent turned political commentator. He's done much to open America's eyes to voter fraud, government overreach, and the deep state's tactics, so I congratulate him. It's pretty amazing that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are the ones now running the FBI when just in the past few years they've been the ones shadow banned, called conspiracy theorists, and smeared for doing what? For telling the truth. But it seems like the truth has a way of making its way to the surface, and I hope that happens a lot more under this new FBI team that shares this goal with President Trump. Here he is real quick.
I'm really looking to make our country successful. I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful. Retribution will be through success. If we can make this country successful, that would be that would be such a great achievement. Bring it back. We have a country now that's overridden with crime, that has millions of people that shouldn't be here, that should be in prisons in other countries, that should be in mental institutions. We have drug lords being dropped into a country and told never go back to their country. I'm looking to make our country great.
And I hope he does. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm looking forward to seeing it unfold and telling you about it right here every single day. We'll take a break on America's Voice Live. When we come back, a lot going on in Wisconsin that you need to know about. Congressman Tom Tiffany will join me. Never a dull moment on Capitol Hill these days, that is for sure. I mean, there's just action every day. And some was good, some was not so good. But today we're going to turn to one of the swing states, one of those blue wall states that fell during 2016 and again 2020. You see, Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers is stirring up controversy after his proposed budget swapped out the word mother for inseminated person. You heard me right. Inseminated person, made other gender-neutral changes that are absolutely absurd. The move has sparked outrage with this unnecessary and disrespectful overreach. Critics, including Senate President Mary Felskowski, have called the shift an erasure of women's identities, particularly women like mothers. And, of course, then there's fathers, too. Evers' decision to replace these traditional terms with gender-neutral ones, such as natural parent and parentage, has many questioning if inclusivity should come at the cost of basic, widely understood language. Join me now, of course, to discuss this, Congressman Tom Tiffany. Congressman, I don't know how much more absurd it could possibly get. Beautiful state of Wisconsin you have. First of all, thank you for being here.
It's good to join you today, Steve.
So you're governor there. Person. So is that what Hallmark's going to put on the cards now? Inseminated person on Mother's Day? Happy Inseminated Persons Day? I mean, come on.
Yeah, Happy IP Day is going to be the message now to the people in the state of Wisconsin. But this is what happens when you have your staff that is this woke bunch of people and you just let them run amok. That is why this has happened under the Evers administration in Wisconsin.
Well, it's that kind of language, that kind of, frankly, stupidity, Congressman, is being rejected across this country. It was rejected on the 5th of November. Is it going to be rejected in Wisconsin? What's going to happen here?
Yeah, so it could not be worse timing for the Supreme Court candidate. We have a big Supreme Court race, state Supreme Court race that's coming up here in April. And it could be worse timing for the liberal from Dane County, who is a liberal just like Governor Evers is from Dane County. Couldn't be worse timing for her because people are simply shaking their heads, including people that are not highly partisan. But what this also says, this is consistent with the woke ideology. Remember, in regards to Title IX, Biden says we're going to allow men to be able to go in women's restrooms. We had our attorney general in Wisconsin that was he was defending President Biden. And Governor Evers would do the same thing. Governor Evers is also for abortions all the way up to 9 months. Is any of that pro-woman? I would say no. And what has happened here is the abortion issue has been taken off the table as a campaign issue now in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Now, I want to focus on that Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. Look, Wisconsin's a common sense place. I'm from Michigan. I spent a lot of time in Wisconsin as well. It's kind of in the neighborhood, right? Beautiful state, common sense state, a lot of rural agricultural communities, red communities. They don't buy into any of this nonsense. And the Supreme Court race, some say if the liberal from Dane County wins, that'll be the end of it for Wisconsin ever being a red state again. They're very concerned about it, those on the right. What do you make of it? If the liberals pull this off somehow, what does it mean for Wisconsin?
There should be. So people understand one of the liberals retired on the state Supreme Court. So it's a 3-3 court at this point. This seat decides whether they're going to go in, not to just the liberal direction, but in the progressive direction. And what the progressive liberal from Dane County has said is that we're going to redistrict Wisconsin, redistrict their federal maps. So it's currently 6-2 Republican versus Democrat. And she's saying, we're going to get you 2 seats. She's been telling the major national donors exactly that. This is about the majority in the House of Representatives. So what does that lead you to believe? It's very clear that they're going after Donald Trump. This is a national play on their part where Wisconsin is once again right in the middle of the fray. They want to take out the House majority so they can do impeachment proceedings on President Trump once again.
People have rejected this across the board. We'll see what goes. I want to shift gears with you just a little bit. I want to ask you about this closed-door meeting, if you were in it when the discussion of DOGE came up. Some of your colleagues seem fairly upset that they're not in the loop on some of the talking points from Elon Musk and some of the cuts that are being made. They say, the quote here is being fed to the wolves when it comes to DOGE. Where do you come down on this Department of Government Efficiency?
I said last fall when this was announced that there may be a Department of Government Efficiency, it may be the most important initiative that President Trump will put in place. And I think that's proving to be true. And the reason there's such a hue and cry about this is because he's squarely over the target. Think about some of the media like Politico and other left-leaning organizations. It turns out they're getting all kinds of funding from them. That there's all kinds of funding that are going to the leftist environmental groups. He is squarely over the target, and that's why there's so much wailing and gnashing of teeth going on.
So let me ask you this. Some have criticized Musk, and that's okay. You're in government. You're doing something big and important and different. You're disrupting. I see the criticism, but Austin Scott from Georgia says, look, we're being fed to the wolves here. I don't know what he means by that, but he's clearly not pleased by Elon Musk, who he says they're being fed to the wolves by Elon Musk tweets. What would you say to Congressman Scott about that?
I think I was there and I heard the comments. And, if you put it in context, he's just concerned about there's some good federal employees. And there are good federal employees, whether they work in the Defense Department, wherever. And so some of them, I think, are coming back to their representatives and say, hey, don't cast us with the people who are the woke crowd, the crowd that was getting money from USAID. Don't put us in with those people, I think, is the message that is coming through from a few of the congressmen that are like, there are good federal government employees also. And that's true. But we have to get to the bottom of this because there is such incredible waste that is going on. We got to find out, who is actually working and who isn't. And don't you think that's what Musk is doing when he says, hey, send me an email to tell me the 5 things you did last week? He just wants to make sure there's somebody behind that computer screen.
Yeah, you know what that's called? That's called having a boss, Congressman. I mean, if I went to the people in my company and said, hey, what were you up to last week? I don't see much here. That's just having a boss. And they're throwing a fit over having a boss and oversight, which is normal. It also, by the way, should be refreshing to those that are stuck in the middle here, who are jammed up, who can't step ahead, that are better employees. This might be good news for people that are kind of trapped in the middle here with mediocre people in front of them. Get out of the way. I'm willing to come to the office, willing to work, willing to do the work for the American people, right?
There's plenty of good people that work as good, honest public servants. And they're saying right now, but they don't say it publicly, they're just saying, yes, it is about time. I'll guarantee you there are thousands of federal employees as we speak that are saying, it's about time. The only thing is they don't say anything, and therefore they don't get their slot on MSNBC.
Congressman, I greatly appreciate being here. Last thing, are you still optimistic about where we're going? Are we going to be that shining city on the hill? What do you think?
Yeah, I do. There's going to be fits and starts. You know how Congress works and all the rest. But, there's really good stuff going on. And as I go across the district, as I've done the last couple weekends, and I hear from people, they are so excited. They're like, finally, we are getting accountability from the federal government.
Well, Congressman, it's always good to see you, my friend. You come back anytime, of course. Nice seeing you again.
Thanks so much, Steve.
We have a Congressman Tom Tiffany from the great state of Wisconsin. That, make no mistake, that Wisconsin Supreme Court seat, very important. We'll keep an eye on that in the weeks to come as well. This is America's Voice Live. Well, a new bill being introduced by a California assemblyman is drawing heavy criticism for its potential to gut self-defense protections in the Golden State. Assembly Bill 1333 would remove the legal protections that allow people to use deadly force in defense of their homes or property. The bill would make it more difficult for crime victims to claim self-defense and could embolden criminals once again. This will leave law-abiding citizens more vulnerable in a state already plagued by rising crime if passed. The law could significantly limit the rights of California residents to protect themselves and their families. Go figure. Joining me now to discuss this is the former Trump campaign surrogate, author, speaker, and chairman of the New Journey PAC, Autry Pruitt. Autry, nice to see you again.
So nice to see you, Steve. Glad to be on board.
I mean, how dumb can they get in California? I mean, is it a contest?
I think they're just determined to empty the state. They're just determined to empty the state of anybody that wants to live there, so they can have like 5 people that live in the whole state. That's what they want. Yeah. It's a big land.
Well,
grab.
Apparently, it's okay. If you can defecate on the street, you can shoot drugs on the street, you can occupy nice business doorways, and they can't move you out. But gosh darn it, don't you defend yourself because you're a criminal then. I mean, how just dumb is that?
Yeah. Well, it was Assemblyman Zur, I think his name is, out there in California. I think so. Maybe it's a she. But this assembly person, the ultimate goal is to remove any type of weapons, any type of guns, any type of self-protection from California. So we can't look at this bill that's out there as an increment of it to itself. It's a master plan, a part of redefining California as the true communist coast. That's what they want to do. No self-protection, no right to defend yourselves, no right to protect your children. If the school teacher decides your boy's a girl, guess what? He's now a girl.
Your boy's a girl.
So
yeah, okay.
It is not.
It's crazy.
Weird.
Plus, you forgot this part, Autry. 13.5% income tax, I think, is what it is in California now. On top of everything else, I mean, right?
You're 100% right.
Oh, and by the way, in the areas around the Pacific Palisades and Malibu and so forth, yeah, at least 5 years to rebuild, which means they'll never rebuild, which means they're going to turn it into townhouses and apartment buildings so they can turn all of that real estate into big money for people, but not the homeowners. They're going to get screwed on that deal, aren't they?
And not only are the homeowners going to get screwed, but eventually the landlord's going to get screwed too. If someone stops paying you in California, paying you rent, it takes 2 to 3 years to get them out. Just like New York City.
How convenient.
So this is a part we as conservatives have to understand, that this is a part of a larger game to turn California into a more socialist state. That's what it's a part of.
Here's my question.
It's an incremental step, not the final step.
Here's the big question. My last question, Autry, is this. Is it too late, or can we still save California? We being the rest of the country, we're like, it's time for an intervention, right? We need to get them off the crack and everything else. Is it too late? Can California be saved?
I learned something long ago from my grandparents. When you encounter a drug addict, you encounter somebody who has substance abuse, and you've tried to help them, guess what? You got to let them rock bottom. They got to lose everything, and then they will come to their senses. And that's what has to happen to California now. There's no saving it. It's got to lose all its population. It's got to go to complete mayhem where no one is safe. And then all of a sudden it can be redeemed.
Yeah. Autry Pruitt, nice to see you. It's been a while. Don't be such a stranger. You come back sooner next time.
You too. Thank you so much. Glad to be on board.
Nice seeing you. All right, we'll take a quick break. This is America's Voice Live. Look, I realize this next story is going to be emotionally devastating for a lot of you, so I apologize. I mean, I realize it's difficult to move on after this traumatic loss of Joy Reid being fired at MSNBC. Sorry, I couldn't even get through that. Yeah, canceled she was. Joy Reid. Yeah. But before she left, she got one more show to bash MAGA patriots like you. Rip on Donald Trump on that last program. She said she's not sorry for her radical left-wing show. Joy was also joined by several of her MSNBC allies who lamented her cancellation, dramatically comparing it to losing a limb. Meanwhile, Reid heaped praise on Rachel Maddow, hailing her as their fearless leader. Joining me now to discuss is Turning Point USA contributor Anthony Watson. And I know Anthony, he probably wept last night, couldn't hardly take it. I know that. Just let me ask you, Anthony. First of all, good to see you, but let me ask you this. When the phone rings every day and they see this over at MSNBC, whether it's Rachel Maddow and everybody else, they probably, no. They're all gone, dude. They lied for years, and now they're paying the price for lying and having a script and just dishing propaganda, right? I mean, I don't know what else you would call this.
Well, I mean, like, I just staring at that picture right there, that's a really good mugshot for all of the lies that we'd like to hold her accountable for. But, you know, in the world that we live in now, it's like the news used to be a place where people used to turn on to get an unbiased story where people could then make the judgment and the assessment of what the truth was for themselves. Now it's something that's different where people don't even want you to know the truth. They've been caught covering it up. And then when they have to put retractions into the system and when they have to backpedal, they do it in such a way that avoids legal ramification, but doesn't really give the justice to the people that it harms. So people that are comparing her to like losing limbs because her show got canceled, what about all the people who weren't allowed to go back to school, all the people who didn't get vaccinated that weren't allowed to go to grocery stores or see their grandparents because of all the propaganda that they pushed? They were literally responsible for the downfall of a lot of people. And even on the way out, when they've been caught doing something, we're still to blame. But at the end of the day, we're not the ones getting our shows turned off and our ratings drop down the gutter. So all the proof is in the pudding, because in the end, truth inevitably will come out. And when it does, you want to be standing on the right side of it. And this case is just another point in case of people from Don Lemon, to now her, to now all of these other people who once were voices that actually stood for something, that drank the propaganda Kool-Aid, and now are nowhere to be found because nobody's buying what they're selling anymore.
Yeah, Don Lemon, Joy Reid. What do you think the penalty should be for the crime of impersonating a journalist? Should it be a felony? I mean, what should it be?
Well, I mean, like, I'd like to bring the firing squad back, but some people think that that's a bit extreme, because if you're somebody that's making it your mission to not just misinform people, but now sway them through lies and manipulation to harm them, any other time that would be used in the law, people go to jail for that. Some people face harsher consequences and stuff. But because people have a platform and they've done it in the name of trying to save people, and I use heavy air quotes for that because there's really been no saving that's been happening. A lot of people now, they try to fly under the radar and they try to disappear for a little bit before they resurface and rebrand themselves. But now you don't see Don Lemon anywhere. He's running a podcast that's failing from what I hear. And here with what's going to happen to her, who knows? But at the end of the day, she'll take her cronies and the people who hang on to everything that she says with a silver spoon, and they'll take them. But everything that now is based in lies and has no foundation, I was like, it all falls apart to where people just move on to something else. So we'll see what happens from here.
Okay, so let me just, this was so predictable, but of course it happened. Rachel Maddow on that level, and I know a couple of clips. I wasn't sitting at home watching it the way you were, Anthony. Rachel Maddow, of course, drops the race card. Oh, we don't have enough people of color in our in our primetime lineup anymore. I'm like, do you think Joy Reid was fired because she was black or because she was lousy and her ratings were terrible? I mean, Jim Acosta got fired over at Chicken Noodle News. That didn't have much to do with it. Now, did it? The fact that he was white. Don Lemon, he was fired because, well, he said terrible things about women, right? And I mean, it's this whole thing. Let's just paint it with one brush, and that'll excuse all the bad behavior. And I hate that.
Well, everyone has been using race as a crutch for these past couple of years because now it's no longer if you're racist or not. Now you have to prove to everybody that you're not racist, and there's no way to do that. Racist people are going to be racist people, and it's not a black and white issue because racism supersedes everything that's black and white. You have Hispanics. My mother's Puerto Rican, but Puerto Ricans hate Cubans. Guatemalans hate Peruvians. I was like, the Chinese hate the Japanese hate the Koreans, and don't you dare call an Italian a Sicilian. You know, race is something that if people don't like it for whatever reason they are, that's what people have in their heart. That's a heart issue. It's not a political one. And people for the past couple of years have used that to now silence people by baiting them and making them afraid to actually have an opinion based off of things that people can't control. This person was fired. Amy Reed was fired because she is a terrible host. Don Lemon was fired because he said terrible things. And because they got the repercussions of their actions, now they're superseding it and putting it onto something that people don't want to talk about, which is what had made them last a little bit longer than they should have.
Yeah, Anthony, you're exactly right. Because if I had said the things that Don Lemon said, even with this beautiful pale skin, I'd have been tossed out the door too, wouldn't I? I mean, it doesn't matter. You say terrible things about women. I'm sorry, but you have to go now, right? That's it. Can we save media in this country, or are we just going to migrate to places like Real America's Voice, podcasts, other places? I'll give you the last word.
No, news can always be saved at the end of the day because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be what it's there. You're supposed to paint the story in black and white for the people to actually make the assessment of themselves. Now, I'm thankful that Real America's Voice, amid all of the lies and deception, rose to the pillar of what it is now, because when people aren't getting the truth, now they have outlets to get it. But outside of news and media, you know, people have cell phones, people have cameras where they capture the real stories that get leaked later on, where the truth actually becomes amid. But my whole thing is tell the truth in the beginning, let the people make up their minds, and then go from there so that we can all just yeehaw at the end.
Anthony Watson, I always enjoy talking to you, my friend, because you shoot straight, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Always, my friend. Take care.
All right. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world, with April 15th coming pretty fast. It's more aggressive than ever. In 2025, enforcement has ramped up, and if you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, waiting's not an option. The longer you do, the worse it gets. Ignoring your tax troubles is the worst thing you can possibly do. April 15th marks another tax year that has passed you by. Getting ahead of this now is the smart move, but never contact the IRS alone. Instead, let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you. That's what I would do. Why? Because I've been through an audit once, and you don't want to deal with that, and not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, which means you're not going to get the guy you don't want, you're going to get the guy you do. You know who to avoid. With proven strategies and ability to settle tax problems in your favor, whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, Tax Network USA attorneys and negotiators have already resolved more than $1 billion in tax debt. Think about that. Talk with one of their strategists today. It's free. Stop the threatening letters. Stop looking over your shoulder. And, look, protect yourself from property seizures, bank levies. You don't need that kind of headache. Don't let the IRS control your future or how you sleep tonight. Call 1-800-905-8000 or visit tnusa.com. April 15th. It's just around the corner, man. tnusa.com. Act now before the IRS acts first. Good plan. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue with ABL after this. Flyers displaying the names, photos, and contact information of ICE agents have been discovered in a Southern California neighborhood, sparking concerns over privacy and security and safety, frankly. The source of the posters remains unknown, but ICE officials have acknowledged the situation and confirmed that an investigation is underway. Joining now is the Director of Immigration and Border Security with the Heritage Foundation, Laura Reese. Laura, nice to see you again. Obviously, this is a concerning situation. You're plastering these people out. This is worse than being doxxed. This is putting people in real danger, isn't it?
It is, and some of the language on this poster is just over the top. I want to read some of it. It describes these agents as racially terrorizing and criminalizing entire communities, kidnapping people from their homes and from the streets, separating families and fracturing communities, and saying many people have died while locked up. I mean, not only is this factually incorrect, but it is inflammatory and just fear-mongering, and it may incite violence against ICE agents.
Yeah, it's demonizing the officers. It's a terrible thing what you just read.
It is, and it endangers the officers because it could incite violence against the agents seeking ambush or, God knows what else. And so the question is, has some of the money that the Biden administration staff shoveled out the door before Trump's inauguration, is it any of that going to pay for this? Or career employees who are still in DHS and the federal government, have they been defying the Trump administration and sending money out the door for this type of activity? This needs Doge-like inspection. No, it wouldn't.
Wouldn't surprise you, Laura. I mean, because here's the thing. This USAID money was pushed all sorts of places that didn't belong. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if some of that money was spent in places like this or from other parts of the government. But what do you think should be done about this? If you're found to be putting officers at risk and saying, they're here to destroy neighborhoods, they're here to destroy your life, they're here to put people in jail where they die. These are just terrible things to say. You're putting a huge target on their back, aren't you?
Yes, we need very public demonstrations of arrests and indictments and prosecutions for obstructing justice. And if they're federal employees, simply firing them is not enough. There need to be more consequences that actually discourage others from doing it. Because if you just fire someone, then some activist organization will employ them.
Laura, I'm sorry to jump in here, but I've got J.D. Vance. He's about to swear in the Secretary of the Army, Daniel Driscoll. So I'm sorry to jump in, but we're going to go to that live over at the White House. Here it is.
So I don't know if they're either back behind us or in this room here, but the grandparents who I know have been quite busy for the last 6 months. So we want to thank them as well. I know that Dan has the distinct honor of also being a classmate of our vice president. And they both have served our country in uniform, and for that we are forever grateful. Dan, we're grateful for your service to our country, and we know that you're going to make us proud in your new role as Secretary of the Army. So please welcome the Vice President and this new Secretary of the Army and his family.
Great. Everybody, please be seated. So we're going to do a little swearing in here to make this official. And I thought, so sometimes when you do the swearings in, you actually do them formally beforehand, and then you actually do the one on camera, just in case you screw something up in front of the cameras, it still counts. We have not done that with Dan. So number one, that puts him under a lot of pressure. He actually has to say the words correctly. And number two, that gives me an opportunity, Dan. This is the last minute here. Anything, anything you can promise me to ensure that we swear you in properly, because the Senate's done its job, and now it's time for me to do mine. But let me just say a couple of words here. First of all, of course, I want to thank the President for nominating a very, very great Army veteran, a family servant, a guy whose grandfather, father, and now himself has served in the United States Army to be our Secretary of the Army. If you look at our recruiting numbers just in the last month, you see a massive increase in the number of people who decided to volunteer, enlist, and sign up for the United States Army, because I think that under the Trump administration, under Secretary Hegseth, and now under Secretary Driscoll, we have people proud to join the United States military again. Thank God for that, because we need good people in our armed forces. We need great people in the United States Army. We have a lot of great people, but of course the future really matters, and I'm proud that under President Trump's leadership, we have turned what was a recruiting shortfall into, I think, a recruiting boon, because people are proud to serve the United States military as they should be. I want to say something about Dan and his wonderful family. So Dan has been a dear friend of mine for a long time. His beautiful wife, Cassie, who's also an incredible physician, and two beautiful kids who are, I think, the most well-behaved kids I've ever seen of a secretary nominee. You guys do a really good job. You actually listen to your parents, which is amazing. And I think it speaks well. If Dan can get, how old are you? Daniel, you're 8? Okay. Lila, how old are you? You're 6. If you can get an 8 and a 6-year-old to listen to you, then I think you can sure as hell be the Secretary of the Army, because these guys are a lot tougher than a lot of the soldiers that Dan will now lead. But we're proud of him. He's a man of integrity. He's a man of character. He's a man of great leadership. And I think that he will bring the Army to a place where we can be proud of it, where we can have meritorious service rewarded and commended in the United States Army, and where we make sure that we're promoting the best and brightest, we're enlisting the best and brightest, and when, God forbid, we have to send the best and brightest to America's wars, we do it with competence, with effectiveness, we do the job, and then we bring everybody home safely. That is what we need to do in the United States Army. I want to thank Senator Budd, we have a lot of senators here, Senator Britt, Senator McCormick, and of course, Senator Ernst, for their great leadership in helping shepherd Dan's confirmation through. We've had some tough confirmations. We've had some easier confirmations, and Dan has been on the easier side, and I think that is great testament both to his character and leadership, but also to the United States Senate and what they're able to do. So with that, I will turn our Secretary Designate into a Secretary by administering the oath of office. So Dan, if you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Daniel Driscoll, do solemnly swear.
I, Daniel Driscoll, do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully.
And that I will well and faithfully.
Discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
Discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter.
So help you God?
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. They gave us 5 minutes total for all of this, so this is going to be very fast. It is a privilege to stand before you today as the 26th Secretary of the United States Army. I first want to thank the President of the United States for his confidence and his trust. Next, I am forever grateful to the Vice President and Second Lady. This friendship has been the adventure of a lifetime. I cannot imagine where it goes from here. To Cassie, Daniel, Lila, both sets of our parents, my brother, thank you for everything. Couldn't have done it without you. To everyone I met on the campaign trail, it is incredible how quickly we went from strangers to friends. Arthur, thank you for pushing so hard to get this through. And then just the last thing, my commitment to this role, as the Vice President mentioned, is rooted in my family's long lineage of military history. We are a family that is grateful to have had the privilege of wearing the United States Army uniform, and we're going to fight hard for it. As Secretary, I will honor the Army's 250th year legacy of service and sacrifice, and I will stay focused on my mission and shoulder my share of the task, as I know our soldiers will do. Thank you for being here today. I'm grateful for all of you.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
Well, there you have it. Daniel Driscoll, the new Secretary of the Army, sworn in by J.D. Vance. It seems like a very nice way to end America's Voice Live for today. Don't forget, bowling is up next. That's Eric Bowling, straight ahead here on Real America's Voice. I'll see you tomorrow.
You asked, and we heard you, America.
Real America's Voice is coming to iHeartMedia.
Yes, Real America's Voice is now breaking through the white noise of the mainstream media.
Just download the iHeart app, and you'll have all of us right at your fingertips.
Scan the QR code and start streaming RAV anywhere you want.
Real America's Voice, available whenever you need us.
It's never been easier to stay connected with the voices you trust.
RAV on iHeart means you can take us with you wherever you go.
This is huge. The truth on iHeart. Ready whenever you are.
From Charlie Kirk to Steve Bannon, Jack Posobiec to Grant Stinchfield, you'll find all your favorite RAV hosts in one place.
You can listen on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, or Amazon. RAV is now available everywhere you get your podcasts. All you need to do is scan the QR code right now.
Download the iHeart app today and get ready for Real America's Voice.
Scan the QR code and join the RAV movement.
As you all know, for decades, a group of D.C.-based journalists, the White House Correspondents Association, has long dictated which journalists get to ask questions of the President of